Hey everybody, this morning I am just on the western edge of Greenfield, Indiana in Hancock County, which is the county just to the east of Indianapolis. I'm actually walking along the Penzey trail, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes in this video here as well. But the main thing we want to get into is one of the fastest growing places around Indianapolis is Hancock County, where I'm standing pretty close to the western edge of it. So we're going to get into the details of that in this video here, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in a place like Greenfield, Indiana, Hancock County to the east of Indianapolis, or of course Indianapolis itself, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video. Now we have people reaching out to us from all over the country with questions, maybe not necessarily about a place like Hancock County or Hamilton County or Marion County, because most people don't know counties around any of the cities, but they do know cities and towns. And one that you probably do know would be Indianapolis. But do you know much about Greenfield, Indiana to the east of Indianapolis? Or Greenwood, Indiana to the south of Indianapolis? There's a lot of greens out there. So if you have questions about any of these cities and towns that surround Indianapolis, including Indianapolis, then reach out any way that you know how. We'll always have your back with those questions, and we'll certainly have your back when it comes time for you to make your move to the Indy Metro. Hey everybody, again, I am right on the edge of Greenfield, Indiana, which is east of Indianapolis, and I'm walking along the Penzey Trail, which honestly kind of go down that way and this way, a very long way. This probably deserves a video all on its own, so that'll probably come at some point. But the Penzey Trail is this stretch here, 14 or so miles long, and you can take this all the way to the west into Indianapolis. And there are some different segments of it, so it might be kind of difficult to get from one segment to the next, but those are all going to be closed up in really not that many years to come. And it'll be extended further to the east, well past Greenfield. In fact, this trail runs right along US 40. US 40, the national road, just to my north. I can't see it, but I can hear it a little bit just over here. And it will eventually become part of the National Road Heritage Trail, which is going to span something like 150 miles. So you can essentially go from the western border of Indiana to the eastern border of Indiana along this trail, which that would be pretty insane. That would be really, really cool. And you could do that on US 40 already, as it goes straight through Indiana. And in fact, when I used to cycle a long time ago, we did a ride. It's called the Ride Across Indiana. And we start in Terre Haute on the Illinois border and ride all the way to Richmond, Indiana, and the eastern side of that, which is the Ohio border. It's 161 miles. So we did that in one day, and we had to go along US 40. It was an organized ride, so we had lots of places taking care of the traffic for us, but you could basically do that in the future along this trail, which would be an insanely long ride, of course. That's very long. I don't ride like that anymore, but this Penzey Trail would definitely give you an opportunity to do something like that. And it's a good example of the fact that it's not the only trail, or the Monon Trail, which is the most known trail around Indianapolis. It's not the only one. There are actually multiple trails around, and the Penzey Trail is a good example. It follows the old Pennsylvania Railroad, the corridor that it took a long time ago. It's no longer here, but the Pennsylvania Railroad, it's kind of famous for after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated and his body was brought back to Illinois, it was brought right along this path here in 1865. So all the way back over to Illinois. So we know that US 40 can definitely go all the way back over to Illinois, and it goes beyond that. It's the national road. Anyway, the Penzey Trail and the construction of it, the extension of it, the additions that it's going to have in the future is one of the things, although not everything, to point to the fact that Hancock County, the county to the east of Indianapolis, and like I said at the beginning of the video, how would you know what the county names are? You have to really look at those. People know cities and towns a whole lot more than they do county. But this county is one of the fastest growing places around Indianapolis. And there's a huge reason for that. Number one is that it's been the least populated county around Indianapolis for a really long time. If you look north into Hamilton County, where Carmel, Indiana, Westfield, Indiana, Noblesville, Indiana, and Fishers, Indiana all are, well, that's the most populated county outside of Marion County. Marion County, for the most part, is Indianapolis. You got a few little exclusions in there, but over 900,000 people in Marion County. There's probably 350,000 people or so in Hamilton County, where Carmel and Fishers and Noblesville and Westfield all are. And then if you get over to the west in Hendricks County, You get some other cities like Brownsburg, Avon, and Plainfield, and then some small towns too. But Hendricks County, you're talking 175,000 people or so. In Johnson County to the south, where Greenwood is, and some other small towns, you're looking at 165,000 people or so. So quite a few. And you get over here into Hancock County, and it's a very different story. There's not even 80,000 people in the entire county. And the biggest city in Hancock County is Greenfield, Indiana. And Greenfield, not quite 26,000 people. It's close to that 25,000. That guy scared me. He didn't say anything coming up. It's kind of loud. Hancock County has Greenfield, as I said. It has McCordsville, Indiana. So McCordsville has roughly 8,000 people or so, and then Fortville, 5,000. New Palestine, just off to my south here. Looking just that direction, you can get to New Palestine, and there's not quite 3,000 people. So mostly quite rural. As you get further north in Hancock County, it certainly gets more populated outside of Greenfield, because Greenfield, you could just follow this Penzey trail right on into the heart of Greenfield, in the downtown area of Greenfield, pretty easily. So from my position right here, there's a little trailhead up a little bit over here to the east, and actually got some people coming up this way walking their dog. I don't have any more cyclists behind me, at least at the moment, to startle me out of my pants. But if I go that way, maybe in the 5-6 mile range, you're gonna get into the heart of Greenfield. So north of that, there is a lot going on. Fortville and McCordsville are two of the faster growing towns around Indianapolis, and there's a lot of new construction through there, and not just with homes. There's a lot of new construction in commercial as well. There are a lot of companies building warehouses for larger companies north of I-70. Big companies like Amazon and Walmart, of course. Walmart has a gigantic warehouse just on the north side of 70, pretty close to where Indianapolis Regional Airport is. Unbelievably large. And of course, since a lot of these things are being built, it's going to produce some new jobs, and you're going to need more people in Hancock County. And that's one of the things that's helping to spur the growth. Now, Hancock Regional Hospital, is one of the larger employers in Hancock County. So a lot of people work there at the hospital in downtown Greenfield, or one of their satellite hospitals or satellite buildings that you have scattered around the county as well. So there are going to be some other companies that come into Hancock County though, and are going to push up the employment in those companies as well, just like the hospital itself. So there is a lot happening in Hancock County, and they have the room to accommodate it. So when you get out into Hancock County, you're going to think, for the most part, rural, very rural. Lots of farms, lots of open space outside of Greenfield. There's open space in between Greenfield and to the west in Indianapolis. There's a lot of people that say that Greenfield is the last small city just outside of Indianapolis, easily within 30 minutes of Indianapolis, that hasn't essentially been swallowed by Indianapolis. So that space between Indianapolis and Greenfield is filling in, and Greenfield itself will continue to grow, McCordsville will continue to grow, Fortville will continue to grow, New Palestine to the south will continue to grow at some pretty good clips over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And all that space between those towns will begin to fill up a little bit more and a little bit more. And we're seeing that now. Now, the cool thing about Hancock County though, is that if you're looking for a place that isn't completely rural, meaning you are just out in the middle of nowhere, because you could certainly get that way east in Hancock County, and you could get that in other counties around Indianapolis as well. It's going to be impossible to get that in Indianapolis itself and in Marion County. You just can't. You can get some space and some land, but it's going to be more expensive, of course, and it's a lot more rare. But if you're looking for extremely rural, absolutely you can find it. But if you want that balance, that subtle mix between, I don't want high density, and when I mean high density, I mean in Indianapolis, so you're talking like 2,500 people per square mile. A place like Carmel, Indiana, Greenwood, Indiana, Fishers, Indiana, those are all places that have roughly the same density as Indianapolis. So while not the density of New York City or a place like Miami, it's certainly enough to say, hey, I'm in a city. You get not necessarily bad traffic, but more traffic, more cars, more people, more homes, more apartments, more of everything that you can possibly imagine. Businesses, it's all there. You can get out here and you start to get a sprinkled mix. So Greenfield is just a little bit more on its own. McCordsville's blended with Indianapolis and Fishers, but still right now a little bit on its own. Fortville is becoming becoming more blended with Fishers on the north side, but still a little bit on its own. New Palestine certainly is still on its own. So you can get that balance of being close to a place like that, which of course is going to have everything that you could possibly need on a daily basis, like Greenfield. Oh, you want a Walmart? Well, they've got it. You want a Home Depot? They've got it. You want a grocery store like Kroger? They've got that. They've got restaurants, the typical ones that you're going to find everywhere in the entire country, and Indianapolis included. They have all of that. Plus you're really close to Indianapolis, but you're not in it. So you're living in a place that isn't terribly populated yet. And will it be as populated as Hamilton County is on the north side, which will probably in 10 or 15 years be over 400,000 people? Hancock County has got a long way to go to get to that. So there is a lot of time. Now, will it get there in the future? I don't know. I would say it's doubtful that it's going to get to the population that Hamilton County is, but it's certainly going to start becoming a higher percentage of that. So could there be 100,000 people here in 10 years in Hancock County? There could be. I think it's not going to grow quite that fast. Could there be 200,000 people here? It's going to take decades before it actually gets to that point. So if you're looking for that subtle mix between, I don't want to be too far out, I also don't want to be too far in, you could, over the next handful of years, have a lot of really good opportunity here in Hancock County to get something like that, and still the ease of living close enough to Indianapolis or close enough to everything that you're possibly going to need. And you get some cool things like this happening too, like the addition or the extension of the Penzey Trail and some other items that are definitely in the works over the next 5 or 10 years. So definitely a cool place to think about and keep on your radar, Hancock County. Just remember that. Remember Greenfield, remember McCordsville, remember Fortville, remember New Palestine. We call it New Pal around here because New Palestine is kind of a mouthful to say. So these are places that when people are thinking, I don't want to be right in a typical city, a typical neighborhood, I want a little bit more space, but I'm not quite there as far as being 20 miles out from everything or even 5 miles out from everything. I want to be a little bit closer than that. But I don't mind a 10-minute drive or a 15-minute drive to a grocery store or a Home Depot or something like that, or a gas station for that matter. I'm okay with it. You can find a lot of opportunities out in this area. So if you have questions about any of the fast-growing places around Indianapolis, including Hancock County, which is definitely one of the fastest, reach out any way that you know how. And until the next one, we'll see you later.